You're not going to believe what happened in my neighborhood. And honestly, if someone else told me this story, I probably wouldn't believe them either. But every word is true. So let me take you right to the moment this all began. Because within the first 5 seconds of watching her security footage, I knew my life was about to flip upside down. Picture this. It's 2 in the morning. The street is quiet. My porch light flickers on from a motion detector, and there she is, HOA Karen, wearing slippers, gloves, carrying bolt cutters, and crouching next to my Jeep like she's auditioning for some low-budget heist movie. Except she isn't a thief, she's the HOA president, and she has absolutely no idea that the Jeep she's trying to tow doesn't belong to me at all. Not officially. It belongs to a federal task force. You can imagine how fast my heart dropped when I watched her snap the lock I'd put on the tow coupling. At first, I thought someone was stealing the Jeep, but the more I watched, the more I realized something far dumber was happening. She wasn't stealing it, she was enforcing an HOA parking violation at 2 in the morning like some kind of midnight vigilante. I didn't know whether to laugh, panic, or applaud the sheer stupidity of her plan. Because the Jeep wasn't just any Jeep, it was undercover, and it was loaded with sensitive equipment she had no business touching. I froze, my head spinning. I kept replaying the footage, trying to figure out how she even thought this was a good idea. I mean, the lock was rated to withstand bolt cutters, but she brought the heavy-duty kind, industrial level, the kind only people who watch too many crime shows own. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself. She was already dragging the broken lock toward her SUV like she planned to keep it as a trophy. And then she grabbed a chain, hooked it onto the Jeep's frame, and tried to tow it away with her personal little SUV, which, by the way, had the horsepower of an electric shopping cart. The Jeep didn't move. She gunned the engine, tires squealing against the pavement, probably waking up half the street. Still nothing. She got out, kicked the Jeep's tire, yelled something I couldn't hear, then tried again and again. At this point, I was convinced she had completely lost her mind. Now, here's something important. I didn't park the Jeep in my driveway because it was undercover. I parked it in front of my house because I was working surveillance on a suspect living 3 blocks down. But the HOA had apparently decided my military-style vehicle was an eyesore and violated neighborhood aesthetics. Funny enough, they didn't realize it belonged to a government task force. And even if they did, something tells me Karen wouldn't have cared. But this wasn't the first time she'd pulled stunts like this. She once threatened to fine a neighbor for having wind chimes. She once reported someone for having a loud cat. She had measured grass blades with a ruler. And now she had graduated from petty nuisance to federal interference. I had the urge to storm outside and stop her right that second, but the rules of the operation meant I couldn't reveal anything unless absolutely necessary. So I watched, praying she would give up. Instead, she reached into her SUV and pulled out a homemade towing permit she printed on office paper. A towing permit. She had planned this. I finally decided this had gone too far. I slipped on a hoodie, grabbed my badge, and stepped outside. The night air was cool, still, and quiet, except for Karen's SUV engine whining like it was begging for mercy. As soon as she saw me, she threw her arms up dramatically like she'd caught me committing a crime. "Well, well," she said, hands on hips, "I knew you'd come running once you realized you can't illegally store a military Jeep here. The HOA issued a notice." I cut her off. "Karen, what are you doing?" Her eyes narrowed. "What does it look like? I'm towing this monstrosity out of the neighborhood. You were warned. Page 47 of the HOA bylaws clearly states." "Karen, that vehicle is not yours. You broke my lock. You attempted to tow it without authorization." "It's not your lock anymore," she snapped. "It's property damage on HOA grounds, and you can expect a fine. Also, your reaction right now is very suspicious. Are you hiding something?" I sighed heavily, because technically I was, but the only thing I was hiding was the fact that she was seconds away from ending up on a federal watch list. But I wanted to give her a chance to walk away. "Karen, listen carefully. That Jeep is part of a government operation. You can't touch it, you can't tow it, you can't interfere with it. This is serious." Her eyes widened, but not with fear, with excitement, like she thought she just found a conspiracy to unravel. Government operation? Nice try. You people come up with the crazy excuses when you break HOA rules. Next you'll tell me the cat across the street works for the CIA. I ran a hand through my hair. I'm not joking. Back away from the Jeep. She crossed her arms and leaned against her SUV. No, I know my rights. I'm the HOA president. I can enforce neighborhood compliance anytime I see fit. This woman was impossible. So I did the thing I never wanted to do. I reached into my pocket slowly, flipped open my badge, and held it toward her. Her face drained of color instantly. She blinked once, twice, then stared at it like it was going to bite her. I warned you, I said softly. This vehicle is government property, and by cutting that lock, you tampered with federal equipment. Her mouth hung open, but no words came out. I could see the wheels turning in her head, panic slowly forming, the bravado melting like an ice cube in sunlight. She looked down at the bolt cutters still sitting on the curb, her face twisted in confusion, fear, and the realization that she might have just committed a serious crime. But before she could speak, headlights approached. A black SUV rolled in, a real SUV, one of ours. The task force stepped out, wearing jackets with the insignia hidden, but recognizable if you knew what you were looking for. Karen backed up quickly, her confidence shattered. "Is there a problem here?" one of the agents asked. Karen raised both hands like she was surrendering. I didn't know. I just thought he told me. I didn't think it was real. I'm the HOA president. I was just doing my job." One of the agents walked over to the Jeep, examined the snapped lock, then looked at her. "Ma'am, cutting locks off federal vehicles is not your job." She looked like she was about to pass out. "Am I going to jail? Please don't arrest me. I didn't mean to. I was just enforcing rules." I stepped between her and the agents. "Hold on. Let's not escalate this. She acted stupidly, recklessly, and illegally, but I don't think she meant actual harm. Let's document the damage and handle it through the appropriate channels." Karen grabbed my sleeve like she was her last hope. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I didn't know. I really didn't know." Her voice cracked, and for the first time she looked genuinely human, scared, embarrassed, small. The agents and I talked briefly. Ultimately, they chose not to arrest her, but she wasn't off the hook. A report had to be filed. Photographs were taken. Her name, ID, and statement were recorded. She was instructed not to interfere with the Jeep again, and she nodded repeatedly like a bobblehead. After the team drove off, Karen stayed planted on the curb, staring at the ground. For once, she didn't have anything to say. I walked over, stood next to her, and waited. Eventually, she whispered, I messed up so badly." I didn't enjoy her humiliation. I didn't want revenge. All I wanted was peace. "Karen," I said quietly, "you need to learn the difference between enforcing rules and abusing power." She nodded slowly. I know. The next morning, everything blew up. Because of course it did. Turns out Karen's midnight operation wasn't as secret as she thought. Neighbors had heard the noise, taken videos, spread them in the neighborhood group chat. Someone even edited the footage with dramatic music and the caption, "HOA Karen versus the United States government." It went viral within 4 hours. She tried to apologize publicly during the next HOA meeting, but it was too late. The board removed her from the presidency. She stepped down entirely 2 days later, and for the first time in years, people in the neighborhood felt like they could breathe again. As for the Jeep, it stayed parked exactly where it needed to be, and she never touched it again, not even with a broom, a glance, or a passive-aggressive note. The funniest part? Weeks later, she mailed me a gift basket with the most awkward apology note ever written. "Sorry for accidentally committing a federal crime. Please don't put me on any lists." I chuckled reading it. She wasn't a bad person, not really, just someone who let power go to her head. And life has a funny way of correcting things when people go too far. So yeah, that's the story of how HOA Karen tried to tow a federal undercover Jeep, cut the lock like she was starring in Ocean's 11, and nearly got herself arrested, all because she thought she was protecting property values. But the truth is,
Sometimes the real danger is not the things we park outside our homes, but the people who think they have the right to control everything around them.